Hello, everyone. This is David Ellis from UCM Vip, and I'm here with Amir Jahangiri and Patti Lucia. And today, court is in session. And what does that mean? It means we are bringing defendants, and the defendants are celestial beings, and we're going to hold them accountable for crimes against their own laws, actually. And this is what we're going to be doing today. And what we're going to be doing today is putting them through the court of public opinion, as well as our most honorable judge, Patti Lucia, who will represent the court of public opinion. And so this is going to be a court setting. And so what we're going to be doing is bringing certain defendants to trial. And this will be part of a series that we're doing. So guys, what we're going to be doing as well is taking suggestions from you. Before we start these proceedings, I want to say that this is done for education purposes, and it is not done to offend anybody because, yeah, we don't really care, but we want people thinking about their belief system and to critically analyze their belief system, right? So if you guys are really hypersensitive and so on, evacuate the broadcast, right? We're not doing this out of any malice or whatever else, but most people generally tend to not think. And this is an aid of assisting the thought process of a lot of people when it comes to whatever your belief system is or whatever the case may be. And so with that, I turn the mic over to Amir Jahangiri.
Ladies and gentlemen, my warmest greetings to you. We have today formed an alchemical court of equity for the purpose of truth and justice, revealing the truth about certain beings that have fancied themselves as deities, to examine their crimes or examine the services they might have done. And the Honorable Patti Lucia is in the esteemed position of judge, and she will be issuing the final verdict. She is impartial. She will hear both sides of the argument and make a decision. So we hope to do this honorably, truthfully, and with the purpose of the highest good of all. And I call for assistance and support from the divine realm. May we do this the right way.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just here for the fun, really, if I have to be honest. Patti, you want to introduce yourself to the audience before we get into this?
It is a pleasure and an honor to be here with my esteemed co-hosts, Amir and David. After this moment, of course, we will get into character, which is for me being the judge. So I am very much looking forward to this procedure and promise that I am and will remain impartial and balanced in my judgment.
Excellent. Are you guys ready?
Yes, so let's clear the energy and go for the first case.
The court is now in session. I call Mr. Ellis, the prosecutor, to state the charges and the defendants.
Excellent. In my opening statement, I want to say that whenever anyone has attempted anything that we're doing, they are usually beset with this idea or this fear that somebody's going to come after them, either on the internet or in real life, okay? And that, my dear judge, is exactly why we're doing this. And I'll tell you why this is, because honestly speaking, we believe and we say, we the prosecution say, that everyone has the right to expression. We say that if these beings, being celestial as they are indeed celestial eternal beings, then the words of a meager citizen like myself should not affect them. we say that the evidence that their followers are, some of them are fanatical, come after people on the internet, criticize them, try to silence them, is evidence of racketeering in and of itself. We say that this is not correct. We say that this practice is not celestial. It does not smack of anything that is honorable. And we say we would need it to stop. We say that we need it to stop. And as a result of that, charges have been brought. And we say that we are doing this in fun. And we say that people need to be educated. We absolutely believe that everyone needs to be educated and exercise critical thinking on all of the things that they believe. We say that the word believe in and of itself emphasizes the idea that there is doubt in there. And a belief and a doubt that is not examined will lead you down the road to fanaticism. And with that, I close my statements. We are bringing to the defense right now the East Indian deities. We will be bringing charges against Shiva, Hanuman, Ganesha, Kali, and give me one.
Krishna.
And Krishna. We will be bringing these charges based on the preponderance of what is in the Gita, the Mahabharata, and the Ramayana. These are the evidence and these are the holy scriptures that are being brought, and with those scriptures will their actions be judged. And we beg you, Your Honor, to render judgment as you see fit. With that, I close my statements and I hand it over to the defense.
Thank you very much, sir. Honorable Judge, honorable audience, as the position of defender of these beings, I would like to state that we welcome truth, we welcome justice, and we welcome the liberation of mankind from illusion. That it is time for this proceeding to happen. It is perfect timing, divine timing, and I think that anybody who is free from crime, if that is truthfully so, should welcome these proceedings. And our position is clarification, revelation of what is truth and what has been placed as illusions upon mankind first and foremost. So thank you very much in advance for your time. Please let us proceed.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let us proceed with the first defendant. Mr. Ellis?
Well, for the first defendant, we call Ganesha, and I will allow the defense to present Ganesha. Okay, so as a summarization, I want to familiarize you with Ganesha, Your Honor. Ganesha, also known as Ganapati, is one of the best known and most worshipped deities in the Hindu pantheon. His image is found throughout India. Hindu denominations worship him regardless of affiliations. Devotion to Ganesha is widely diffused and extends to Jains, Buddhists, and also in Nepal, of all places, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines as well. Although Ganesha has many attributes, he is readily identified by his elephant head. We need to get into that. He is widely revered, more specifically as the remover of obstacles and thought to bring luck to the patrons of arts and sciences, and the deva of intellect and wisdom. As the god of beginnings, he is honored at the start of rites and ceremonies. Ganesha is invoked as a patron of letters and learning during writing sessions. So he really is the god of art in East India. If you wish, Your Honor, I will list the charges that he's being brought upon.
Please.
The crimes that he's been accused of is torture, plagiarism, self-endangerment, and inciting aggression.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Let us proceed.
Okay. On the charge of torture, we accuse Ganesha of commissioning the sage Vyasa to write the Mahabharata. He made a pact with the sage that once the writing started, it would not stop. And so, to this end, Vyasa accepted and wrote the Mahabharata. There's a small problem there, Your Honor. He's a god and Vyasa is a sage and a human being. As a result of that, if the writing does not stop, guess what happens? The human being suffers as a result of it. We accuse Ganesha of torturing the sage Vyasa with intellectual knowledge. I would like the defense to respond to that, but if the defense wishes to wait until I'm finished, you may do so.
Your Honor, how may I proceed? Shall I address what has been stated so far, or shall we go at the end?
So far, if you have any defense relative to the nature of the torture that Mr. Ellis has stated, now would be the time to present it.
Thank you, Your Honor. The introduction to Ganesha was very adequate, beautifully put. Now, Rishi Vyasa, a holy man, indeed is the author of the Mahabharata and also the Bhagavad Gita. Now, there are some facts that must be clarified, that in the ancient times, kings had the ultimate power. And now, if a king summons you and pays you to write something, you better be damn sure that you write it a way that the king likes it. So I challenge the fact that it was, in fact, Ganesha commissioning Vyasa to write this, rather a local king who had two favorite hobbies, murder and fornication, and not necessarily in that order. And the poor man was tasked with a painful, indeed torturous task, how to write high spiritual concepts in a way that the degenerate king would find enjoyable, because that was the ultimate goal, for it to be fantastical. So for the king to say in the sweet Sanskrit language, Avartata Mahabala, oh yes, indeed, he was powerful. Vyasa had to write stories of beings murdering half the army and then shagging the rest of them to death for the king to like it. You see, so the story was indeed written to order, but the fact that it was done by Ganesha is disputable. This was done by a local powerful ruler, and he held Vyasa hostage for the greatest part of his adult life, the remainder of his life after commissioning it. I would like to go back to the idea of many of these deities, that they have existed for thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of years among our ancestors, as descriptions of ideas or forces of nature. So, for example, Ganesha or Ganapati is the base aspect of humanity removed, replaced by something that is more divine. Mm-hmm. So that would be the description of the idea of divinity in control of mankind. And so the elephant head is not an accurate representation, the head being removed by something that is ethereal, boneless, which would appear like a mirage, shaky because it is ethereal. And so therefore, Ganesha is not an elephant, it is not an elephantine, it doesn't have a big belly, it is an idea, divinity in control of mankind, the human that has risen to the platform of divinity, and that is what guides the actions. Therefore, the super intellect, and therefore, with that super intellect, removal of obstacles. Thank you, Your Honor.
And thank you, gentlemen. I do have a question going back to Mr. Ellis, but both of you can respond to this. Can we get clarification on the nature of the torture? So, for instance, is there additional proof that you can present that it was indeed Ganesha who ordered the writing of these texts? And if so, what was the punishment if he stopped writing?
Your Honor, this is exactly what the gods do. Now, what my esteemed colleague referred to is an esoteric understanding of the text. The text is literally written in the Mahabharata as Ganesha commissioned Vyasa to write the Mahabharata. A pact was made between them that when the writing started, it would not stop, right? This is written in the Holy Book itself. The reason why I bring this up is that we have an issue where thousands, millions, tens of millions of people, past, present, and I suppose future, believe that this God, the remover of obstacles, commissioned a man, a human man, to start writing. Ganesha was the author of the text, but Vyasa was telling the tale and could not stop telling the tale until such time as it was finished, which took 3 years. We say that for Vyasa to enter into that agreement, he would be doing it under duress. Now, I agree with my esteemed colleague that it could indeed be a king that may have commissioned Vyasa. However, tens of millions of people have exoterically understood that Ganesha made a pact with Vyasa, and by making a pact, we say that Vyasa is also complicit in his own torture. We say that he's complicit in his own torture, and we ask for some amount of leniency, and that is understood. However, making a pact where your sovereign being, your physical being in this realm is in compromise is by nature not the actions of a caring and loving God.
And would the defense like to add more additional comments to this?
Yes, Your Honor. If I may, I agree with almost everything the Honorable Prosecution has presented. But again, I would like to go back to the center, the core of our defense, that deities such as Ganesha have existed in our culture as representations of ideas or energies in nature that have certain effects. The fact that these ideas have been hijacked and countless people, countless generations believe in falsehoods and have suffered as a result is not in dispute, Your Honor. That is a truth, an unfortunate, bitter truth. But yet, imagine a being arriving at our planet, examining the local culture and beliefs, discovering that people believe in a certain form, a deity such as Ganesha or all the other defendants that are about to come onto the platform, and assumes that mantle. Because it is perfect, people already have the background to believe. It just has to show some dog and pony tricks, and there you go. You have a primitive population under your rule. Mm-hmm. Right? So what I think that is undefendable is that being, that priest, priestess, or priesthoods that have used these ideas, esoteric ideas, for the purpose of power. Your Honor, we do not, as the defense, we do not wish to defend any of those actions. In fact, we are completely aligned with the prosecution that they are unforgivable, disgusting, in fact. But let us separate what is an esoteric idea from the abuse of that idea. And so in the position of the defense, I believe that the notion that through spirituality, removal of the base instinct of humanity, when divinity is in control of mankind, all obstacles are removed. That is our position, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I would like to, I have just one further clarification for the two of you, and that is if both of you can address the question of free will in this case?
Absolutely. Now, in this case, Vyasa was completely within his rights to agree to pursue this noble pursuit. We have, however, an argument to make that if a God asks you to do something, you do that thing, whether it brings you the rest or not. And this is the notion of people. So how does free will operate? Our understanding of free will is that it is truly free. If it is that Jesus comes down and says to me, David, write this book, and I have to go fishing as an example, and then I read the stories of Jonah, you know, the guy who went fishing and ended up the stomach of a whale. If I read these stories and Jesus comes down and a God asks me to do stuff, I am doing that stuff, okay? Because there are too many countless stories. So we say that in terms of free will as we know it should be exercised without the thought that something might happen if I exercise my will in a particular way. And we say that Vyasa was a holy man and he was absolutely acquainted with all the stories of all the things that gods had done to other gods, to the human race and so on. And so when a god asked him, oh, we're writing this book, right? Vyasa was under subconscious duress to obey that God. That is my position.
Thank you. And the defense?
Your Honor, in this, I'm in complete agreement with my esteemed colleague. The fact that esoteric and occult knowledge has been used to subjugate people and overrule their free will is not in dispute here. I completely agree. Thank you.
On the charges of the further charges that we have against Ganesha are plagiarism, because he commissioned the writing of the Mahabharata without the express permission of the fallen and the fallen's families. Not getting consent of the fallen is by definition an infringement of their copyright. It's their stories. Well, there was no copywriting back then, but it doesn't help with the whole idea of respecting one's stories and one's privacy. And then writing it in a biased manner. There is no question that the Mahabharata is written in a biased manner. It is written to support one family, the Pandavas over the Kauravas. Okay? It is biased. And as a result, if the book is biased, like just about most religious texts, it presents one side of a story. The further charge of self-endangerment, there is a story of Ganesha breaking off his own tusk when his feather pen had stopped working when he was writing the Mahabharata, as a means of continuing writing the book, which took 3 years. I must emphasize 3 years to complete. The final charge, which is inciting aggression. Ganesha uses a mouse as his vehicle. Now, that's interesting enough. The symbolism is interesting by itself, if you have an esoteric standpoint. From an exoteric standpoint, however, the greatest danger to farming in India is mice. They eat everything, the crops and so on. So by befriending a mouse, playing chess with a mouse even, he was showing people that he can make the obstacle to farming his friend. Here's the problem that I have with that. To this day, Indian farmers have not really come to grips with how to get rid of the mice that are eating their crops. Problem. And with that, prosecution rests on the Ganesha.
Thank you. And the defense?
Your Honor, what the Honorable Prosecution just mentioned is very accurate. That there are many fallacies in all three of these sources, Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, as are as is the case with many religious texts. But specifically in this case, we know that there was duress upon the author, very real life and death situation, whereas if he failed to please the local monarch, they would torture him very badly to death.
Agreed.
That is not under dispute. And also the fact that this spiritual idea of divinity ruling over daily life, there have been and there will be, and unless we do something about it, will continue to be beings and entities that impersonate this persona of Ganesh. Different beings, different people taking that mask over different periods of time, and we know this is a fact. In fact, many of these gods and goddesses, quote unquote, are blood relatives, non-human, that enjoy ruling upon us. So again, the defense falls back to the core of what we are trying to present, which is Ganesha is an ancient idea that if divinity and spirituality is replaced with base human nature, the human head, the ego, then all obstacles are removed from your path. So that is the core of what Ganesha is. All the rest has been used to harm humanity. We do not find that defendable or acceptable in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
And Your Honor, just as a matter of rebuttal, I do agree with what my esteemed colleague has said. I recommend, as is, I know this is unorthodox, but I do recommend that Ganesha receive some sort of suspended sentence as a result of the fact that he is a lot less homicidal than his compatriots. So I urge the court for some leniency where Ganesha is concerned. And with that, the prosecution rests.
And the defense?
No further statements, Your Honor.
Are you requesting a summary judgment?
Yes, Your Honor.
And just to review the charges: torture,
Yes.
plagiarism,
Yes.
inciting aggression,
And self-endangerment, yes.
and self-endangerment. Okay. Gentlemen of the, I was going to say, gentlemen of the jury, my esteemed colleagues in the prosecution and defense, both of you have presented very eloquent and articulate arguments, and I have much respect for both of your perspectives. My judgment at this time is the following, and the reason why I am judging in the way that I'm judging is because it continues to be a question to this court: at whose hands did this suffering happen? Was it at the hands of Ganesha or in the hands of other human beings? So I find Ganesha not guilty on the count of torture, plagiarism, inciting aggression, and self-endangerment. That is my ruling.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Excellent.
So let us clear the energy and move to the next defendant.
On the docket next, we have Hanuman.
And
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, and what are the charges?
With the opening statement, I just wanted to state what Hanuman represents. Hanuman is a Hindu god and divine Vanara monkey, companion of the god Rama. Hanuman is one of the central characters of the Hindu epic. He is an ardent devotee of Rama. Hanuman is also the son of the wind god Vayu, who in several stories played a direct role in Hanuman's birth. Hanuman is mentioned in several other texts, such as the epic Mahabharata and the various Puranas. He is charged with willful trespass and contravening the sovereignty of a nation, contempt of court, arson, vandalism, predial larceny. We also ask that this defendant be taken into protective custody for possible self-endangerment.
Very well. Let us proceed with, I'm sorry. Would the defense like to make some opening remarks before we begin?
Yes, Your Honor. So Hanuman, among all the defendants, is probably the most inspiring one. Similar to Ganesha, Hanuman is an idea, starting from subhuman, fully monkey. Now this being becomes devoted to the divine. Now, if you basically see, he's tearing open his chest, and his heart is the divine masculine and feminine as a sign of devotion. And as a result of this devotion to the divine, this being starts a journey of ascension, where he reaches a certain level and is drawn back down by the forces of darkness, and then again through that very devotion climbs back up, reaches a level that is unbelievable. He is perhaps the equivalent of many of the Norse gods. He is the god of shamanism because he can change his form. So as a result, he gains the power to transfigurate himself. And it is a journey of struggle and pain where he loses his control, causes massive damage. This is not disputed as long as it goes with the lore or the epic. And through surrender to the light, through surrender to divinity and that devotion, he is on his journey of ascension, and he falls many times. But it is beautiful to see that through devotion to the divine, ascension, elevation, and growth is possible. So it's a story of hope, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Ellis, would you like to begin?
Yes, I was listening to my colleague, and he is talking about the hero's journey.
Yes.
There's a small problem. Hanuman is a god. So let's start with the beginning, right? The first part of this is that we're trying to try the gods and hold them accountable for the things that they hold human beings accountable for. So the gods have to raise up to that standard as well, theoretically, in a fair universe. Okay? So we want to start by saying that Hanuman was cursed at an early age for playing pranks. A sage cursed him and took away his memory of his powers. Okay? So he was a prankster from birth. Okay? With regard to the charge of trespassing and contravening the sovereignty of a nation, we want to give you some background here. Rama's wife, Sita, was tricked into following a golden deer by the bad guy in the Ramayana, whose name was Ravana. Okay? And so what happens is that she gets kidnapped. She does get kidnapped, Your Honor. We absolutely agree. Hanuman then breaks into what is now known as Sri Lanka. Back then, it was just known as Lanka, okay, which is the kingdom of Ravana, under the guise of wanting to free Sita, the wife of his bro and compatriot, Rama, who, by the way, is not Rama, but really Vishnu, the identity thief, who is playing the role of Rama, okay, who was lured away from her husband, right? It is important to note that Sita refused to be rescued by Hanuman. When he came to rescue her, he broke into that nation as an ant. She refused to be rescued under the notion that it should be her husband that should rescue her, because that's the way things rolled back then. Therefore, his trespass is not justified because she refused to go with him. Further to this, Your Honor, once captured by Ravana's people by being in this territory uninvited, he refused to cooperate with the laws of that city. And he refused to be punished by growing and shrinking his tail repeatedly to avoid punishment. He then further increased his contempt for court, broke out of the court with his tail on fire, and proceeded to jump from rooftop to rooftop and set the whole place ablaze with fire. This is particularly egregious since the people who lived there had no issues with Hanuman or Sita. Who's Sita? We don't know about Sita, but they had their houses burned down. Now, the argument could be made that only demons live there. I dispute this because Sri Lanka has always been populated with human beings. So if you set Sri Lanka on fire, people are impacted. Innocent people were impacted by this action. Why set the whole place on fire? That would be the arson. Further, let it be known that in an effort to save a fallen comrade, Lakshmana, from certain death from an injury, the accused ripped a mountain out of the Himalayas. I will repeat this. He ripped a whole mountain out of the Himalayas because it had one herb that he needed, an herb to cure his compatriot. He couldn't remember what the herb was, so he just took the whole mountain, thereby proving predial larceny. The question, what about the other herbs growing on that mountain and the people who needed the herbs for that mountain? He did not know which mountain, so he took the whole, which herb, so he took the whole mountain. That's a bit extra, Your Honor. It really is. Finally, also, when all of this was done and he was so loyal to Rama, he was asked to prove his loyalty. The defendant chose not to accept any gifts, and this is to his credit. He even chose not to accept immortality. To show his loyalty, he ripped his own chest open to show off a little image of Rama, aka Vishnu, sitting in there, and only asked, after doing all of that, to worship at Rama and Vishnu's feet. We believe that such an action, though noble, tends to suggest a certain amount of mental instability, which leads to self-endangerment. And if people were to follow this example, there is certain madness that will prevail. Okay? And we believe that Hanuman needs some counseling for going above and beyond what the loyalty bounds are. To rip open your own chest and endanger your own self by ripping open your own chest, just to prove your loyalty when you have broken into a country, burned down a country, ripped a mountain out of the Himalayas, committed predial larceny. If you had to show your loyalty after that, to the point where you're ripping your chest open and saying, can I just please worship at your feet? It sounds noble. It sounds noble, but it tends to suggest that this particular deity needs some form of counseling. And I suggest, Your Honor, that even though this particular deity has done some rather egregious things and innocent people were harmed in the process, we ask for some level of leniency because he was doing it based on the concept that he was being loyal to the identity thief, Rama, who was actually Vishnu. And with that, prosecution rests.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Can we hear final remarks from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. The honorable gentleman in prosecution placed all the facts very elegantly. None of these are in dispute. The story of Hanuman is a story of painful growth. We see that throughout the existence of this quote-unquote deity, there's always a problem with proportion, a response in correct proportions. things are over exaggerated, and thus is the nature of base nature, anger, envy, greed. It is never balanced. It is always out of proportion, without harmony, often causing massive destruction and harm to others without any regard to their well-being. And we should take the story of this being as a cautionary tale. What happens when we fall back into base nature? The dangers of what will happen, even if we think we're devoted, and this being was truly devoted. But in that devotion, look at all the destruction that was caused. And yet I argue to the honorable judge that this being did not know better. It wanted to do the best it could. It knew no better. And even at the very end, through harming itself, it was just trying to, in that base animal way, say, just improve me. I don't want this, I don't want that, just ascend me. So I think that is worth praising, but the destruction that has been caused is unacceptable. And that is true for any one of us. On our journey to ascension, we do not have the right to cause harm to any other sentient kind. That is unacceptable. And so therefore, Your Honor, I would ask that you treat this case with leniency. They did not know better. They are absolutely accountable for the damage and the harm. That is unexcusable, but please be lenient, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
And thank you, my esteemed gentleman. I would like to just review, Mr. Ellis, can we just review the specific charges once more?
Hanuman is charged with willful trespassing and contravening the sovereignty of a nation, contempt of court and the customs of that nation, arson, vandalism, and predial larceny. We also ask that the defendant also receive some sort of counseling for self-endangerment because he does not know better. And as a result of that, his actions have caused harm to others. But we do once again reiterate that he should be treated with some sort of leniency because his intentions were noble.
And are you asking for summary judgment in this case as well?
Yes, yes, Your Honor, I am.
All right, if you will allow me just one moment. My esteemed gentlemen, I thank you for your presentation of the facts in the case regarding Hanuman. My thoughts on this, on Hanuman, is that perhaps he is most beloved because he is most like we humans. And while it might be debated that it is a true hero's journey because he was not human, I would perhaps differ with that in that he was so human-like that his journey was very much like the human journey. In that said, he was a flawed and an out of balance being who struggled with those very flaws and imbalance. I do find Hanuman guilty on all charges, though the sentencing will be lenient because this court agrees that he is capable of rehabilitation. He shows desire in his story for his own rehabilitation, ascension, growth, expansion. And this court would like to allow him to continue to evolve as the being he is. So we will suspend the sentence. We recommend rehabilitation for this, for Hanuman. And that's my judgment in this case. Thank you.
Excellent, Your Honor. Shall we clear that air?
Yes, let's clear the energy and move to the next defendant. Beautiful, thank you.
Your Honor, next on the docket, we have the Lord Krishna.
All right. Let us proceed with opening remarks from the prosecution.
Okay, so Krishna is a major deity in Hinduism. He is worshipped as the 8th avatar of Vishnu and also as the supreme god in his own right. Notice that he is worshipped as the 8th avatar of Vishnu and a supreme god in his own right. He is the god of protection, compassion, tenderness, and love, and is one of the most popular and widely revered among Indian divinities. Krishna's birthday is celebrated every year by Hindus on Krishna Janmashtami, according to the Hindu calendar, which falls in late August or early September of the Gregorian calendar. Okay. Krishna is accused, Your Honor, of the following crimes: bigamy and warmongering, as well as licentiousness. He's also accused of war crimes and breaking conventions as well. And this is where we begin the case.
Okay. You may proceed, Mr. Ellis.
Okay, on the charge of bigamy, this is what we have to present. Krishna has been accused of having 16,108 wives. He started off with just 8 wives, Your Honor, to his credit. He showed restraint. But then there was this psycho king, Narakasura, in what used to be Iraq, around the area of Baghdad. Apparently, he had captured these women and had them as sex slaves. And so Krishna rolls in, kills this king, and frees the captured women. The captured women, at the time that we're talking about, did not want to live because they had been defiled by this king, defiled, aka had some sort of consort or sex with this king, and he was married to them, and they had a bad reputation. So with the death of the king, they couldn't go back home to their families because their families would shun them, society would shun them. And so they asked to die. And so Krishna was like, no, I have a plan. I'll just marry you, and then everybody will respect you. I'm sorry, Your Honor, just give me a moment. I'll just marry you, and then everybody will respect you. And so by that, Krishna demonstrated not only benevolence by marrying the 16,000 widows, but by giving them a second chance at life. And yeah, with that simple action, he gained himself the 16,108 wives. And we believe, Your Honor, that this is definitely an act of bigamy for sure. We understand that the growing consensus is that he did it as an act of benevolence. He gave these women back their honor. Our question as the prosecution, when I was reviewing this case, was simple question. Why could he not have just changed the minds of the people that lived in the area and made them evolve past chauvinism to the extreme instead of acquiring 16,000 wives? Because it begs the question. I guess there was absolutely no benefit in it for him, right? it begs the question. If the problem is that they're not being accepted by the people in the society around them, and you are the supreme creator God that you are, just change the minds of the people, aka send them back home to their families. They don't depend on you for honor. That is the prosecution's position. But we continue, Your Honor. Warmongering. I want to read you a transcript, Your Honor. I want to read it to you so that you hear from the voice of Krishna himself. Now, there is a war that is going on between two warring factions of cousins. Krishna is on the side of the Pandavas. The head of that faction does not want to go to war with his cousins. So he says, and I quote, Your Honor, eternal family traditions and codes of moral conduct are destroyed with the destruction of the family. And morality prevails in the family due to the destruction of family traditions. And immorality, I should say. And when immorality prevails, O Krishna, the women of the family become corrupted. And when women are corrupted, unwanted progeny is born. Do you all need me to clarify that? Basically, when the family breaks down, women become a bit more free with themselves. And yeah, we have illegitimate children everywhere. This brings the family and the slayers of the family to hell because the spirits of the ancestors are degraded when deprived of ceremonial offerings of love and respect by the unwanted progeny. We have been told, O Krishna, that people whose family traditions are destroyed necessarily dwell in hell for a long time. It would be far better for me if my cousins kill me with their weapons in battle while I am unarmed and unresisting. This is what the mortal Arjuna is saying to the God Krishna. He is reasoning to not go to war. This is Krishna's response. How has this dejection come to you at this juncture? This is not fit for a person of noble mind and deeds. It's disgraceful, and it does not lead one to heaven, O Arjuna. Do not become a coward, O Arjuna, because it does not befit you. Shake off this trivial weakness of your heart and get up for the battle, O Arjuna. This is the response which the God gave to the mortal. But wait, there's more. Because there's always more, Your Honor. There's always more. Arjuna continues his reasoning against the war by saying, how shall I strike my grandfather, my guru, and all other relatives who are worthy of my respect with arrows in battle, O Krishna? It would be better indeed to live on alms as in beg in this world, than to slay these noble personalities, because by killing them, I would enjoy wealth and pleasure stained with their blood. Mortal talking to God. I want to read Krishna's answers. Krishna's answers to that was, Lord Krishna said, you grieve for those who are not worthy of grief, and yet speak words of wisdom. The wise grieves neither for the living nor the dead. There was never a time when these monarchs, you or I, did not exist, nor shall we ever cease to exist in the future. This was the God's answer. So I would like to charge Krishna with warmongering, because the human is pleading for the cousins that he's about to kill, and the God is telling him not to become a coward. Now, Your Honor, by his own words is he damned in this case. And finally, this is Krishna's answer for all the wrongdoings that went on in that war, the Kurukshetra war. What they are doing, the other people, the Kauravas, what they are doing is a dharma. What we are doing is also a dharma, but we are doing it with the intention of establishing dharma. They are doing it with the intention of establishing a dharma. It is not a question of right and wrong. Oh no, it isn't. It is a question of purpose and of whether you would be successful within the limitations of the law or not. He did not say that he was doing right. This is what the sages said. He knew it was wrong, but what he was trying to achieve was right. That's what the argument path is. Now, within our understanding of the laws of the gods, killing another sentient being is by definition wrong, whether it be at a physical level or a spiritual level. We want to also say that during this war, Krishna absolutely interfered with the battle on many occasions. One of his most noted interferences is when Arjuna, the guy he is talking to right now, said, "My son has been killed in battle. So what I am going to do is make sure I kill the general of the other side of that battle before a certain time limit. And if I don't kill him, I will kill myself." And so what happened was that Krishna, on the final day, when that guy was not killed, brought a cloud over the battle, made the opposing side think that the battle was over, to put down their arms based on the law, and had Arjuna shoot that general with an arrow to kill him so as to preserve Arjuna's life. He kept pushing stuff and all sorts of tricks and deceits in the favor of the side he was fighting on, including sinking the chariot of Arjuna down into the ground to avoid being hit by weapons that were aimed against him. Your Honor, this is not fair practice. It's breaking the conventions of war. And for that matter, pushing an individual to go to war with his cousins when the individual is begging you to understand the morality of not wanting to kill his cousins, we believe that that is endemically a wrong practice. We believe that this deity is not all he is cracked up to be. In the beginning, in my opening statements, he is seen as the God of protection, compassion, tenderness, and love. And we believe that his actions do not measure up to that standard. The prosecution rests.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Can we hear from the defense?
Thank you, Your Honor. Krishna, unlike the two previous deities, is a representation of a certain energy. It is not an idea. It is a force of nature. What that force is the divine giving you the answer yes to whatever is the wish of your heart. And then the representation of Krishna is the youth playing music, playing the flute, and being in that infantile, immature state of mind. Whoever this energy sits with will grant whoever they're sitting with whatever their heart desires. So you think 1,000 and so women wanting a certain person is strange? Well, look at today's society. How many millions of women desire certain celebrities, singers, and famous people? If Krishna sits with each one of them, guess what? They'll all have their time with that celebrity. That is the nature of this energy. So with all those women, I argued that what their heart really desired was companionship with the divine. And Krishna, being the energy of the divine, granting your heart's desire, obliged. And may I argue that Arjuna might have been speaking these great words of avoiding war, but what his heart really wanted was revenge. Dark, bloody revenge. And of course, Krishna, being the yes from the divine, granted that wish. It is its nature. And so therefore, by very definition, Krishna is different things to different people. Krishna is a mirror. That is its nature. That is the nature of this force. That is the nature of this energy. And so the devotees of Krishna know that the highest form of Krishna is Leela Krishna, where he dances with his equally infantile lover, sweet, joyful dances of music and playfulness. That is the highest form, where divine is joyful, playful, and innocent. That is what has been reflected from the heart of the person that Krishna is being with. So yes, all these things that are mentioned that Krishna did, yes, absolutely Krishna did. Because that is the nature of this energy, this force of nature. Yes, from the divine, whatever your heart's desire is. So is it the force of nature to be blamed, or the hearts of men and women? It's a child that has the gift of granting your wish. And by that definition, it is a faulty, dangerous, unstable, chaotic power, absolutely. But it is just manifesting what is in the hearts of people. So, Your Honor, this is a
Objection! Objection!
Yes, Mr. Ellis.
Objection, Your Honor. I dispute the characterization of the 16,000 women who cannot talk for themselves. I believe that what they wanted was acceptance. All right? And as a result of that, if they couldn't go home, they would rather die. At no point in time in the verses did they say, oh, we really want a man. They never said that. I'm just saying.
I'll accept that. That's overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the way that this force of nature may try to manifest the wishes or desires of the heart is very problematic. There is no argument there. So I think by very definition, Krishna must not be called those who have anything but light in their heart, because the outcome will be tragic. It will be destructive. So for this deity, Your Honor, I would recommend them to be placed in a place of light and love, so that what they reflect back is light and love, and for them to be given the chance to mature out of that childlike mentality, not just granting yes to any desire, whatever that may be, for them to gain discernment towards the highest good of all, not to be blown this way and that way, like a leaf in the wind, whatever the desire of the heart of that person that's in front of them may be. So this immaturity has caused tragedy, bloodshed, and great crimes. But yet it is a force of nature misused, like the atom bomb. So how would we treat powerful weapons that are capable of both powering an entire nation or destroying an entire nation? I think this is how we must approach Krishna, that which is within its reach the potential of greatness, but on either side, goodness knows what side that may be. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Ellis, do you have any final comments?
Yes, I just want to read you an excerpt from the Battle of Kurukshetra. The head general of the Pandavas, Arjuna, has his 17-year-old son killed dishonorably by the opposing enemies. Dishonorably, they killed him. So he makes a promise to kill Jayadratha, one of the generals of the opposing camp, before sunset the next day, or else he will kill himself. That's what Arjuna suggests. Arjuna was willing to kill himself. Upon hearing this, the opposing army protected their general so that Arjuna would be forced to commit suicide. Krishna intervened by placing a cloud over the battlefield and making the opposing army believe that it was nighttime, and putting down their weapons so that Arjuna could kill Jayadratha. Okay? So he would save himself. He would save Arjuna. In the fight between Karna is a very strong general in the opposing side, and Arjuna, Krishna's boy, right? They were evenly matched, and Krishna, being on one side of Arjuna, kept helping him in every way, shape, and form. In this particular fight, Karna had the advantage and aimed a weapon at Arjuna's head. The name of the weapon is Astra, just so for those of us who are theologians. Astra is the name of that weapon. Krishna caused Arjuna's chariot to sink a few inches to the ground to make Karna miss. This is not good, and it symbolizes the will to cheat, to win. He has a will to cheat, to win for his side. So on the prosecution side, we asked for some form of, and I agree with my esteemed colleague, some form of imprisonment has to be put forward here. Some sort of restriction has to be put forward here, because if left to his own devices and Krishna being on the side, you don't want Krishna on the side of anybody else. This is a God who actively participated in a human war. That, by definition, would be unfair. Very unfair. And an argument could be made that Arjuna was having an argument with this God, and the God was within, and absolutely he's having this sort of argument to give himself license or permission to go kill his cousins. An argument could be made. Even if this was the case, the manifestation of the deity in that case requires some sort of containment or at least development. Some sort of restriction has to be placed on this entity, because if this entity is left to roam in our modern world, the destruction would be unimaginable. And with that, the prosecution rests.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Mr. Jahangiri.
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree with the prosecution that such an force of nature that does not have discernment towards actions that are aligned with the highest good of all, and not just the wishes of the heart of anybody that matters to be their companion or their acquaintance at that moment. This is very important. So although the actions are done out of what the nature of that energy is, it has no discernment, and therefore it is unfortunately unstable and destructive. But yet I would like to focus on the childlike innocence. That lack of discernment is innocence in its form, and that I would recommend that this deity be placed with its beloved Leela, so as it learns discernment and maturity, it remains in its most elevated, beneficial form, that is joyful innocence, not destructive, not lustful, not vengeful. So controlled development, this would be a good outcome. So from this force of nature, without any sort of judgment or discernment, maybe one day something completely different and beneficial may arise. Thank you, Your Honor.
Prosecution rests as well, and we request a summary judgment as well.
Thank you, gentlemen. If you would just grant me a moment. All right, gentlemen, thank you again for your eloquent arguments on both sides. As for the matter of Krishna and the charges brought against him, for the charge of bigamy, the court finds Krishna not guilty. Though I hear and understand the argument that Krishna at any time could have, as you worded it, Mr. Ellis, gone to the people and supported a kind of evolution beyond chauvinism. However, I think that that would call into question the nature of free will. So for that charge of bigamy, I do find Krishna not guilty. As for the warmongering and war crimes, I do find Krishna guilty for many reasons. Our world has had a long and egregious history of war that has leveled immeasurable damage to the human family. So Krishna is one deity who has, for his own agenda, even if he justifies it with the creation of Dharma, war has done such damage to the human family that Krishna and any god that promotes it should be held accountable to the highest degree. So this court is recommending eternal probation for Krishna. The breaking of the probation would be any attempt at all to support war in any degree, shape, manner, form within the human family. In the event of breaking such probation, Krishna will be banished from our universe. The court has spoken. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Clary?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next up, Your Honor, on the docket is Ma Kali. You know, this is one of these cases, Your Honor, where I'm going to state at the beginning, I want a summary judgment. But for the purpose of processes, we are going to go through this process. Kali is a Hindu goddess who is considered to be the goddess of ultimate power, time, and change. She's considered as a ferocious form of the goddess Mahadevi, the supreme of all powers, or the ultimate reality. Kali's earliest appearance is when she emerged from Shiva. She's the ultimate manifestation of Shakti and the mother of all living beings. The goddess destroys evil in order to protect the innocent. Okay. Over time, Kali has been worshipped by devotional movements and tantric sects, variously as the divine mother, mother of the universe, principal energy, Adi Shakti, Shakata. Additionally, worship her as the ultimate reality or Brahman. She's also seen as the divine protector and the one who bestows moksha or liberation. Your Honor, Kali is accused of assault, murder, genocide, conspiracy to commit genocide, racketeering, incitement of violence, violence in extreme, battery. Yeah, she's accused of all of those.
All right, and can we have opening comments from the defense?
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, Mother Kali is not for everyone. She is a force of nature, and she is easy to approach, but not just anyone should approach. Now, if you look, she's holding the head of a demon king. Absolutely, she kills and slaughters and purifies, but that which is evil. And to those who are at the level of mastery, she grants purification through her fire of ego and illusion. So this deity is not for those seeking the path of enlightenment, not for those seeking the path of personal liberation. She is she who assists those who want to cleanse the world, who want to cleanse not only themselves, but through her gift of removing ego and illusion to cleanse everyone in their surrounding. And this force of nature is not just aggressive. There is a form of her where she is joyful, lustful, dancing, embracing the devotee. So you see, one will approach this beautiful being when they wish to be purified, not just that, to become the purifier. So if you play with fire, you must be willing to become that fire, become the kindle for that fire. With that level of devotion, you approach, you become the fire that purifies. So therefore, if somebody is not prepared to go all the way, fire is fire. You see, this is the nature of this entity. And if you have nothing to be burned within you, no more illusion or ego, that fire will not burn you. You become that divine flame. Thank you, Your Honor.
And thank you, Mr. Jahangiri. Mr. Ellis?
Well, I'm so happy that the defense has the picture up so that I can start my case. Yeah, so you see that coming at you in a dark alley. Let's start with that. I think I'm going to choose to prosecute Kali a little bit differently. Let's talk about the origins of Kali, the possible origins, because she's a little bit enigmatic in theology. So here are some of the possibilities. I mean, for those of us who are looking for a deity to follow out there, who's listening to our broadcast, I just want to say, here are the possibilities of the origin of Kali. There are several traditions of how Kali came into existence. One version relates when the warrior goddess Durga, warrior goddess, who had 10 arms, each carrying a weapon, because why not? And who rode a lion or a tiger in battle, fought with Mahishasura or Mahisha, the buffalo demon, apparently. Durga became so enraged that her anger burst from her forehead in the form of Kali. So Kali was the embodiment of Ma Durga's anger. I'm only giving you the possibilities, guys, just the possibilities. Once born, the black goddess, I'm just saying, once born, the black goddess went wild and ate all the demons she came across, stringing their heads on a chain, which she wore around her neck. It seemed impossible to calm Kali's bloody attacks, which now extended to any wrongdoers, and both people and gods were at a loss as to what should we do about this thing here. Fortunately, the mighty Shiva himself, who will be prosecuting next, by the way, lay down in front of her. Fortunately, the mighty Shiva stopped Kali's destructive rampage by lying down in a path. And when the goddess realized who she was standing upon, because, she'd be standing upon his chest, she finally calmed herself down. From the story is explained Kali's association with battlegrounds and areas where cremation is carried out. That's just the first possibility. Let's start with that. Let's just start with that. In another version of the goddess's birth, Kali appeared when Parvati shed her dark skin, which then became Kali. Hence, one of her names is Kaushika, the sheath, whilst Parvati is left as Gauri, the fair one. I'm not saying anything. You deduce from that if the untouchables being darker skinned. In India, in the Indian caste system, the darker skinned Indians are looked down upon. The fairer skinned Indians or the Brahmins are held up in esteem. I am saying that there may be a reason for this and it might link back to theology. The story emphasizes Kali's blackness, which is the symbolic of eternal darkness and which has the potential to both destroy and create. Second possibility for the evolution of this Kali creature. In a third version, men and gods are being terrorized by Daruka, who could only be killed by a woman, apparently. And Parvati, who is the wife of Shiva, by the way, was asked by the gods to deal with this troublesome demon. So she responded by jumping down Shiva's throat. Okay? This was because many years previously, Shiva had swallowed hala, the poison which had risen from the churning of the ocean during the creation and which threatened to pollute the world. So by combining with the poison still held in Shiva's throat, Parvati was transformed into Kali, leaping from Shiva's throat in her new disguise or guise, Kali, and swiftly dispatched this demon, right? And there were no more demons anymore. Finally, this is the last version. I'm giving you all the possibilities, right, of the origin of Kali. There's a story of a terrible demon, Bloodseed is his name. This demon was, like most demons, causing a great deal of trouble, and with people and gods alike. But even worse was his ability to produce more demons every time a drop of his blood spilt on the ground. So every time you cut him, a demon would spring up. Therefore, each time he was attacked, the only result would be more demons to deal with. So the gods decided to work together and combine all their Shakti, all their powers, to produce a super being called Kali. And you know what Kali did? She attacked this guy and drank all of his blood. All of it. So there were no more demons because she drank it. So we're dealing with somebody who drank the demon's blood. So she has the demon's blood inside of her. Okay, but let's not get into that. There are lots of symbols that Kali is associated with. Her black complexion apparently symbolizes her all-embracing and transcendental nature. I believe that this has had a cultural effect on India, where darker-skinned Indians are looked down upon because their skin imbibes wrongness. And so Kali has had a cultural effect. So on the charge of incitement of violence, she is guilty in our estimation of the word. Her nudity is primeval, fundamental, and transparent nature, like nature, the earth, the sea, and the sky. So she's naked for a good reason. She's representing nature. And disbandment of all illusions, like, I don't know, clothes, as an example. Her girdle of severed human hands. Yeah, she's wearing a girdle. You can't see of severed human hands. Signifies work and liberation from the cycle of karma. So if you work really hard, your hands could form part of the girdle as well. Her white teeth show her inner purity because Colgate was apparently part of the god's regime of evolution. And her red rolling tongue indicates her omnivorous nature. She would eat anything. Her indiscriminate enjoyment of the world's flavors. Her sword is the destroyer of false consciousness and the 8 bonds that bind us. Her 3 eyes represent past, present, and future, the 3 modes of time. An attribute that lies in the name Kali. Okay? Kali's proximity to cremation grounds, where the 5 elements of Pancha Mahabhuta come together and all worldly attachments are absolved, again point to the cycle of birth and death. The reclined Shiva lying prostrate under the feet of Kali suggests that without the power of Kali, Shakti, Shiva is inert. So now, here's what I want to say where this particular defendant is concerned. I absolutely see the good coming out of the evil. I mean, she's killing demons, right? Indiscriminately. So much that the gods are concerned about how angry she is. I also want to bring up charges of racketeering because Shiva has spurned a following of people, Kali has spurned a following of people who are known in our English language as thuggies or thugs. Devotees of Kali are called thuggies. So I would like to consider racketeering as part of this. In my suggestion, Your Worship, Your Honor, I suggest that Kali be restricted in some way, shape, or form, as she was by the gods themselves. Because left unchecked, any one of these origins is bad news for us. And who's to say what the wrongdoers are? So let me see. I missed 1 payment on my car loan. Oh no, Kali's coming for me because I'm doing something wrong. people who miss child support payments. They're all doing bad things, but that is a bit of an extreme reaction. That's a bit extra.
Objection, Your Honor.
Yes.
This is speculation. The Honorable Mother Kali, as far as we have heard, has only destroyed those who are absolutely deserving of it. There is never a mention of harming the innocent, or somebody who misses a car payment should not expect Mother Kali. Only the worst of the worst. And among the gods, those who fear Kali probably have good reason to fear. As we've seen in the previous cases of the defendants, not all the gods are worthy of reverence. So is there a case where she has harmed somebody wrongfully?
I beg the question, because if Kali is playing judge and jury and executioner, then we don't know, because due process hasn't been served. She indiscriminately, as is the case in the Gita and every other holy book, murders what is being called the wrongdoers. Wrongdoers. Now, wrongdoers there's a scale for that, I would think. Or is she killing murderers? Is she killing? We don't know. So I understand the objection, and I will actually say I sustain the objection. However, my esteemed colleague has to take into consideration that wrongdoers is not defined in any of these texts. And so it could mean absolutely anything. But her rage is what we want checked, because her rage spills over onto everyone.
Your Honor,
she feels is not there. Go ahead.
May I interject, please?
Yes.
Kali doesn't just target wrongdoers. She targets wrong. Now, if a being is built only by wrong, then that being goes. If a being has goodness in them and some wrong that needs rectification, that is exactly what is purified. So she is the great purifier. So if there's more light in a being than darkness, that darkness is going to be transmuted. But if all that there is darkness, then that being is entirely transmuted by their head being removed and the blood being spared from causing more trauma. She is the embodiment of divine feminine in her rage, as in when a mother gets angry that you do not mess with my children. In fact, I object to her being restricted in any way, shape, or form, because the world needs more of this. Kali takes care of that which cannot be taken care of. In fact, we need more of this divine, feminine, righteous, divine rage in the world. We need more empowered women like Kali. And although my esteemed colleague mentioned that because of the black color of her skin, people have been mistreated in India, now is the time where we know that nothing should be assumed about a person based on their color or their creed or their origin. You see, she is black, but this is not a human tone of black. It is black as the blackest sky in the center of the galaxy. She is not human. She is a force of nature, divine, righteous justice, swift justice. You're a demon. You've messed with countless people, tormented them and tortured them. Guess what? Kali is coming for you. If you're a human and you have done some wrong, you call to Mother Kali. She will help you burn through that illusion and distortion and purify you. She's not in the business of harming the innocent. She is not in the business of causing chaos and war. Her reason for being is answering the prayer of those who have nobody else to call to. Oh, great divine, send me someone to fix this wrong. This demon is tormenting the land and cursing everyone. That is the purpose of Kali. So she has not harmed innocents. She does not harm the innocent. She is the great destroyer of evil, delusion, and ego. And of course, in the graveyards, that is where the body is cremated in traditional Indian practice. Well, losing the body is the greatest way of losing your ego. You see, there is no contradiction here. More power to this energy. More women and men should embody this righteous wrath, When it is right, it is right. You pull out your sword and you go to war with evil. And that is what Kali is.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you, Your Honor.
comments. Thank you, Mr. Jahangiri. Your objection is sustained, and your comments are appreciated. Mr. Ellis, do you have anything more to add?
Yes, I believe that I do agree that justice is needed in the world. And I think what is also needed is a certain amount of due process as well, to immediately and swiftly deal with people. We have seen countless stories in the other defendants' cases of people just getting something wrong, right? Misunderstandings. In the case of Krishna, which we just had, the argument that Arjun has. If that is the case, Arjun, by that definition of what my esteemed colleague just said, is guilty, and Kali should come for Arjuna.
Objection, Your Honor.
Go ahead with your objection.
Yes, go ahead.
If Mother Kali comes for Arjuna, she will not behead him, decapitate him, deform him. She will burn within him that distortion that leads to rage, vengeance, and anger. So if there is a case for Arjuna being rehabilitated, purified of that distortion in their ego that leads to cruelty and vengeance, that is what will happen. If Arjuna is purely evil and there is no way to fix it, we should not think of this in terms of human process. She is not human. She is a force of creation and destruction, maybe. But it is righteous justice. It is righteous destruction. So there are no tales of her causing wars, harming thousands of innocents, harming children, for example. You see, there's a distinction here. She's harming those who are absolutely out of control. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, and I would argue that if she comes for Arjuna, the thing that she needs to burn out of him would have been Krishna, wouldn't it? Which my esteemed colleague just defended. He just defended Krishna. So if she came for Arjuna, the thing that was encouraging him to go to war and kill his cousins is what should be burnt off. But we just put Krishna in a limitation situation with his beloved Leela. So by that same token, and since we're holding the gods to the same standard, by that same token, I believe that there should be some kind of understanding or limiter put on this individual due to the fact that if allowed to roam free, even the gods themselves would be destroyed.
Your Honor, may I present some facts?
Yes.
Mother Kali is like an antivirus that runs through the entire network, getting rid of destructive viruses. And if your computer, your operating system contains viruses, she's going to take care of that also. She is the ultimate antivirus and cleanser. With that kind of a definition, which is not too far from the reality, if you have an antivirus, you want it to be really powerful. You don't want to tie it down by protocols so it misses certain viruses and bugs and worms that are going to ultimately damage your system. So more power to Mother Kali. We want her to be powerful and reign free. Thank you, Your Honor.
Prosecution rests.
And so is it my understanding that Kali at this moment is free and has been to run?
Your Honor, she cannot be restrained regardless of what we do.
Your Honor, I would like to suggest a few things. Before making judgment, look at the actions of the followers of Kali. They judged what was wrong and what was right, and they dispatched quite a few people based on their understanding of right and wrong. And so if Kali is roaming free in our society today, the fighting will never end until one side understands that what we perceive of as right or wrong is being adhered to. And this kind of thing is what we probably don't necessarily want to promote.
Your Honor, may I add some
Yes.
facts?
Mhm.
That the esteemed prosecution is absolutely correct. That the Thuggy and many followers of Mother Kali have incorrect understanding of what her nature is. If they are true devotees, they will feel that cleansing energy. Yet I believe that this beloved deity has been misrepresented and has been used for criminal activity, as the Honorable Prosecution has correctly mentioned. But that does not change the nature of what Kali is. The people who use any kind of a divine idea, divine figure, a religious text for wrongdoing are absolutely criminal. In this, I totally agree with the honorable prosecution. Thank you.
And thank you. Final words, Mr. Ellis?
No, you know, Your Honor, the prosecution rests.
No, Your Honor, defense also rests. Thank you.
And we are requesting summary judgment here.
Yes, we are.
First of all, I would like to thank the esteemed gentleman for such articulate arguments, eloquent arguments on both sides. The court finds Kali not guilty on all charges.
Mhm.
And as to the belief held that her followers have done crimes against other humans, it is the court's opinion that Kali cannot be held responsible for the distortions of humans who use her and her nature to do crime and to do harm against other humans. She cannot be held responsible for any misrepresentation of her core essence. So this court finds Kali not guilty on all charges.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Claring?
Yes, sir.
Finally, Your Honor, we have Lord Shiva being brought to trial.
Yes.
So, Your Honor, with the... Go ahead.
Yes, please proceed, Mr. Ellis. Thank you.
Shiva, the auspicious one, also known as Mahadeva, the great god, Hara, right, is one of the principal deities of Hinduism. He is the supreme being in Shaivanism, which is the worship of Shiva as a religion. One of the major in traditions in Hinduism. Shiva is also known as the destroyer within the Hindu trinity, which also includes Brahma and Vishnu. In the Shaivite religion, Shiva is the supreme lord who creates and protects and transforms the universe. In the goddess-oriented Shakta tradition, the supreme goddess Devi is regarded as the energy and creative power, Shakti, and the equal complementary partner of Shiva. Shiva is one of the 5 equivalent deities in the smarter tradition of Hinduism, okay? Now, he is accused of many things. I didn't even know where to start with this defendant. But I'm going to have to go on a case by case because Shiva is a special case. We asked for summary judgment because his name is the Destroyer. Okay? And if you accept this moniker, then you are announcing to the world, I am about that life. And so we start with attempted genocide. Lord Shiva's anger was out of bounds, was so out of bounds that the universe was on the verge of extinction. when Sati placed herself in the yagna of her father Dakasha. I'm going to summarize this. Shiva married a young lady named Sati, and Sati went to an event. Her father didn't like Shiva because she thought of him as a dirty ascetic. She went to her father's ceremony. Her father held a ceremony and she went. And at that ceremony, her father snubbed her. And Shiva heard about it. On top of which, at that ceremony, because her father snubbed her, she was so heartbroken, she ran into the fire, the sacrificial fire, because her father hurt her. Enraged on the insult, unable to face Shiva, Sati decided to destroy the yagna by throwing herself into the yagna fire. On hearing the blazing of Sati, Shiva turned ferocious and took the form of Bhadrakali, and destroyed everyone who took part in the yagna, including the devas. These are the gods themselves. He destroyed them. These are his brothers. Still unable to digest the death of Sati, Shiva took the soulless body of Sati and danced his Rudra Tandavam. Unable to face the wrath of Shiva, the entire universe stumbled and started to disintegrate. Everyone pleaded Vishnu to pacify Shiva. He did everything, but Shiva's wrath in the absence of Sati was of no bounds. Finally, with no other goal, he used Sudara Shana Chakra and started to cut off Sati's remains, which were in the hands of Shiva. The body parts fell in different parts of the world and formed the 51 Shakti Pitams. Okay? So, he got angry, his beloved was snubbed, and the entire universe had to pay for it. He killed the gods, he killed his brothers who attended the ceremony who had nothing to do with the disrespect of Sati. Assault with battery with intent to wound. According to Hindu mythology, Brahma once created a deity known as Shatarupa. However, as soon as he was created, he became infatuated with this deity and started developing heads just to gawk at her. Yes, that actually happened. When she tried to move over his head, he developed a fifth head as well as an all-seeing head. Shiva got really angry and chopped off the fifth head of Brahma, the creator being that is part of the triumvirate, and also cursed him, saying that the world will never pray to him. This is the reason why there is only one Brahma temple in the world, because Shiva took his business partner and cut off his head and cursed him. Murder, 2 counts of murder. Daksha, one of the sons of Brahma, married one of the sons of Brahma's daughter, married Shiva, who Daksha disliked. Now, this is the kind of the same story, in which case she also sacrificed herself by running into the flame. I'm not quite sure why people who date Shiva run into flames. Let's leave it at that. Shiva finds out about this and invokes the Bhutaganas, who destroy the premises. In that incident, he also decapitated Daksha, who was a son of Brahma, just so we're clear. So that's the guy that he cursed, and there's only one temple to worship him. Well, one of his sons, the daughter marries Shiva. He disrespects the daughter because nobody wants, apparently, their people to date Shiva. And eventually, Shiva destroys him by cutting his head off. But wait, there was this sage who was a worshiper of Daksha, Briju. So they cut off his beard and use it as a war souvenir. That happened. But wait, there's more. There's always more, Your Honor. There's always more. That's why we saved this defendant for last. Child endangerment, murder, and animal cruelty. So everybody has heard of the birth of Ganesha. Yeah, so when Shiva was not in Mount Kailash, Parvati created the boy out of the grime and turmeric to keep her company because her husband is gone. She treated this boy as a son and called him Ganesha. Once while taking a bath, Parvati asked Ganesha to guard the door and not to let anyone in. The obedient son agreed. Soon Shiva returned and asked Ganesha to let him enter. He refused to let Shiva enter. Soon gods appeared and asked Ganesha to let Shiva enter. Ganesha did not comply. Angered, Shiva had an answer for it. I'm just going to cut your head off. So he cuts off the head of Ganesha. When Parvati saw this, she was horrified. Parvati gets angry at her husband and asks him to bring his son back to life by getting the head of a child whose mother is sleeping while facing her back on him. So Parvati says, there are lots of mothers around here, get me a head and stick it back on. Shiva promises that the next mother, so to speak, of the next being that walks by, their head will be on this body. Shiva sees an elephant and quickly gets the baby elephant's head and attaches it to the body, bringing Ganesha back to life. Yeah, so I keep asking, what happened to the elephant, man? What happened to the elephant? Aggravated assault. Once Lord Indra, who is the god of fire, went to Kailash mountain to meet Lord Shiva along with his sage. Shiva decided to check their devotion and not reply to Indra's gestures, as that he's snubbing the guy who came to visit him. Soon Indra got angered by this and attacked Shiva. In return, Lord Shiva paralyzed the hands of Indra because I'm ignoring you. But if you attack me, I'm still going to paralyze your hands. Seeing this, the sage who was with him recognized him. The battle that ensued between Brahma and Shiva in the sea led to the manifestation of a small child that pressed the neck of Indra so hard that Indra started crying. Hence the child was called Jalandhar. Jalandhar grew up and married Virendra. It doesn't matter. All of this stuff is neither here nor there. But it shows the mentality of the individual that I am speaking about, where there is pride involved. Why would you snub somebody who came to visit you? Cruelty, malice, aggravated assault, and wounding. Mrikandu Rishi and his wife worshipped Shiva and sought from him the boon of begetting a son. As a result, he was given the choice of either a son who is gifted but will live a short life on earth, or a child of low intelligence but will live a long life. So they chose the former. This child grew up to be a devotee of Shiva, and he was due to die at 16 years old. When he was destined to die, the goddess of death, Yama, came to claim this child. And in the ensuing battle, the noose that is supposed to be dragging people ended up on the lingam of Shiva. It's a prop that is used in the worship of Shiva. And Shiva became upset by this, manifested himself and killed the goddess of death, the god of death. And so he is called Kalantaka, the ender of death. So he actually killed death. Slavery and cruel and inhuman punishment. Lord Shiva was on his way to Kashi. He asked, this is with the gods, he's working with gods. He's going to worship with the gods. He asked all of them to wake up before sunrise the following day before taking a night's rest. But in the morning, no one was awake except Shiva. This made him furious, and he set out on Kashi on his own, cursing the others to become stone images. He got pissed off. Your Honor, when looking at the mentality of this individual, a lot of these crimes were unnecessary and speak to a certain amount of anger. Unnecessary. Not answering people. Violence against his own brothers, turning them to stone. Killing and breaking agreements. If you said that that kid would die at 16 and the god of death comes to claim that child, and there is a battle that is ensuing, you don't kill the god of death. This is the agreement that was made. You made that agreement. And as for the rest of the crimes, such as the dead elephant, which we need to talk about, I am sure that my esteemed colleague will have a lot of esoteric explanations for why this is so. But all I am going to say before we even conclude this proceeding is that if everyone adapted themselves and their mentality on the actions of what I just read to you, think of the world that we would live in. Prosecution rests.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Mr. Jahangiri.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I could fight tooth and nail for this entity, but I'm not going to. So let's look at the idea of Shiva. The word means that which is not, pointing to the direction of the void. The void is all potentiality, not yet manifest into one singular solid form, essentially pointing to the prime creator, that mystery that is the source of all creation. And this notion has existed with man since the very beginning. And now, 15,000 years ago from this point in time, a very powerful being approaches our world, sees that the population has this belief, and of course this being is very powerful, but not all powerful, so it just has to do some magic tricks, and there you go. The population think that they're dealing with the prime creator. So, Your Honor, I cannot in good conscience defend this entity. I respectfully ask to be excused from the role of defense. I cannot do so in good conscience. The actions that the Honorable Prosecution has mentioned are too numerous, and all of them are unacceptable by any standard of man or gods. So with all due respect to the Honorable Judge, I must step down.
With regard to the Yeshiva, I recommend the following actions. I am not quite sure what is possible to rehabilitate in this instance, due to the fact that this particular defendant has shown a propensity towards violence towards his fellow gods, to the point where if you don't wake up early enough, you get turned into stone images. So I believe, and I request humbly, that definitely some sort of restriction be put on this entity, as his followers as well. And we don't hold the God responsible for what his followers do, but we have seen that he bestows upon his followers, the most extreme of his followers, exceedingly long life. And in return, they inhabit cremation grounds. They eat the bodies of human beings who have died. I will repeat this. They eat the bodies of human beings who have died. They smear themselves with the ashes of the cremated in order to become closer to Shiva, on the pretext that they're becoming closer to him by defilement of themselves. So when we get to the stage where they're cannibalizing dead bodies, Your Honor, I humbly request that some sort of restriction be put here.
Your Honor, may I present some comments? So we're not talking about the prime creator here. The devotees of the original idea of Shiva, that mystery that is the source of all creation, they are devoted to the prime creator, and we honor that. Mm-hmm. But that is not what we are talking about here. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Your Honor.
And thank you, my esteemed gentleman. Does the prosecution rest?
Yes, the prosecution rests, Your Honor.
And we are asking for a summary judgment.
Yes, as with all the pantheon, yes, we are.
Gentlemen, I think in this case, you have saved the worst for last. So the observations of this court are the following. He is being brought up on multiple charges, including attempted genocide, murder, and other egregious acts against humanity.
Mhm.
The court sees him as many things, as defense intimated a possible interloper for the prime creator. So a deity that posed as prime creator, but in fact was not.
Mhm.
This is a deity that is clearly out of balance, functioned out of pride, motivated by anger and vengeance, was self-serving, malicious, and had abject disregard for universal law.
Mhm.
My esteemed colleague, Mr. Ellis, rightly pointed out the question of whether or not such an entity can be rehabilitated. And though this deity cannot be held responsible, as Kali was not held responsible for the actions of followers who have taken their teachings or their modeling and distorted them, and in this case have brought them to other extremes in graveyards. This court still finds Shiva guilty on all charges. The question is sentencing. He is not, in this court's perspective, in this court's view, capable of rehabilitation, and so shall be sentenced to exile from this world. We recognize, and that is an exile from earth, and a form of death in terms of the ideological exile, and exile in terms of this deity ever having a right to speak to moral concerns regarding humanity. And we remove our devotion and trust in this deity. We respect the free will of any and all humans who still hold this deity in high regard, but this court finds this deity guilty and exiles this deity and all of its ideological beliefs and actions from earth.
Mhm. Appreciate it, Your Honor.
That is
Thank
the
you,
finding of this court.
Thank you very much.
Are we clearing?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. And we really appreciated this. We really appreciated this. It's going to be very hard for me to break character now. I'm going to be talking to you all like this for a while.
Are we breaking character now? Are we out of character?
Well,
Yes.
court
Yes.
is adjourned. Yes, let's go
Oh my
back to our.
goodness. I forgot to say that.
This has been fun, guys. For those of you who are watching, this
Yeah.
is what we're going to be doing for a little bit. So we don't know what we're going to be doing with this
Well,
recording. We
because
thought
there's so many more.
so many more.
There's so many more.
We're going around the globe, right?
Going
And
around the
so
globe.
this recording was intense. We learned a lot. right?
Yes.
We learn this is what we're talking about. This kind of discourse is necessary between people, right? And when it's done, it's done. Like I don't want to cut Patty's head off. Like I don't want to cut Amir's head off. This kind of discourse is necessary, and it has been stifled in the world. And what we want to do, guys, what we want to do is encourage more of this discourse where you learn different perspectives, how people think, and so on. So we really hope this has been actually educational for the very least. And join us next time where we have another major court session with the Honorable Patti Lucia. But in the meantime, guys, you have the last word. I'll let you all have the last word. Anything else you guys want to say?
Your Honor, oh my God, yes. That's pretty much it.
That was very professional, Patty. Oh my God.
It was a real honor. It was quite a learning experience for me. So I certainly enjoyed all of what we did, and it's always just so much fun to be doing whatever we're doing together. I enjoy myself, but this was a learning experience for me, and yeah, I really enjoyed this very much, and I agree with you, David. I think if we can model in some ways, even if it's somewhat of a satirical or humorous way, a way for this kind of discourse to happen and for people to come to their own conclusions about these deities, whether they agree with us, this court, or not, to be able to question and to explore. Why is it that humanity has been so under the spell of these and other gods for so long?
Yeah.
That's an important question for our time. So it's exciting to be exploring that with the two of you.
Excellent. Guys, join us next time where we do this again. I don't know where we're going next. But wherever we're going, this is going to be educational, fun, and exciting. This has been fun for me. For those of you who really appreciated this, let us know in the comments below if we're streaming it. We're not actually sure we're streaming it as yet, but let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.